Welcome, everyone. My name is Catherine Wang, and I am the co-chair of Uniting Women in Cyber. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very excited to have Alison King joining us as our guest speaker. She's not only a decorated contributor within the cybersecurity space across both industry and government, she's also a member of Uniting Women in Cyber's Leadership Committee and many other cyber-specific organizations, including the Foundation for Defense and Democracies and the Technology Advancement Center. Ali, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So thanks again for taking the time to speak about your experience to the community. To kick us off, I think we can start with a quick question, a little bit more about what you do and what your typical day looks like.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll kick it off. So I'm the VP of Government Affairs at Scout, and come November, I've been there for 2 years after spending a little over a decade in the federal service. And so for Scout, my typical day kind of consists of three major things. So I'm responsible for the lobbying, the policy, and the strategic partnerships with the federal government. And so a lot of what I do is really focused on what's going on with Congress, but then also figuring out how I can thread the needle of what's happening from Scout from an event perspective with the calendar, while also juggling what's happening on the policy horizon, because many of you know that the Biden-Harris administration has been prolific in this space. It doesn't seem that long ago, but we were on the heels of COVID, Colonial Pipeline, many other things have come our way. Ransomware has really ripped across hospitals, municipalities, and even the Los Angeles school system, which is a big one. And so it's good to continue to have conversations, especially around what the government's trying to do with zero trust, lead by example, and how companies like mine can really play an important role in ensuring that you can buy down your risk and ensure that you can continue to do business as usual.
That sounds like quite a lot. Do you ever find that it feels very much like you have to exercise mental agility, or do you find that there is quite a bit of connective tissue across all the things that you do?
So there's definitely some symmetry. It does require some strategic planning every single day, just because it's just me. I don't have a staff. There isn't a bigger team. The folks that I do work with at Scout are wonderful, but I need to ensure that I spend my time strategically, just because you can't eat the whole elephant. And so I like to really, take some time in the morning to kind of evaluate what's going on in the week and what my priorities are, and then kind of sprint towards what is at the very top of the list, but always make time to be able to connect with peers and friends within the space, because they help me out so much. And United Women in Cyber is a resource for me, just because not one person, just like not one security tool, can do it all. And so you really need to figure out how to leverage your resources, your contacts, your friends, to provide you with insights or, suggestions, or even, constructive criticism. And so it's been a wonderful, opportunity for me to be in this community. It's interesting because I don't consider myself as this like crazy top performer. Like, I am just trying to get out here and get my job done. But, from time to time, you look up and you're in rooms with some pretty incredible people. So it's definitely something that I appreciate, and I don't forget.
Well, speaking of connecting with peers and meeting some truly incredible people, Uniting Women in Cyber is coming up, Uniting Women in Cyber 2024. And I think this is both of our fourth year, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
we're veterans.
Yes. Yes. And on that note, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are probably watching this that are new to the UWIC community. Do you have any advice, or what would you share about this community, what it's meant to you, or what you've learned along the way with new attendees?
Sure. So if you're new to the community, or curious, first and foremost, we welcome everybody. Although the women will be hosting, men are welcomed. And whether you have experience in cyber security, or you're curious, or you just want to see what it's about, please come and join us. Your participation and contributions are valuable to us. You have fresh eyes, fresh perspectives, and you might just look at things differently. So you're definitely welcomed. Your perspectives will be appreciated by the group. And I do think that you'll actually have a lot of fun. It's not meant to be an intimidating space, although some of the things that folks do work out and have accomplished can be a little intimidating, but that's completely subjective. So we really would encourage you to take a look at your calendar. I think our big event is 1 October at the Army Navy Country Club. So please come and join us and really immerse yourself in a group of folks that are simply wonderful. And it's something that even in my position, I like to think that I'm pretty well connected, but I always block that day off on my calendar because every single year it gets better. And it's like, well, how could you get better? It's like because the people that really invest in this community hold themselves to such a high standard that they're like, what worked last year? What can work better? And what are we missing? And so just know that this isn't something that's just kind of like thrown together or ad hoc. There's a lot of work that goes into it to ensure that you get maximum ROI.
Right. I think the networking in particular has been the gift that keeps on giving. You mentioned some people being able to see them on stage and getting access to them, what you normally would not have otherwise, and having the fangirl, starry-eyed, look of appreciation for all of their accomplishments. And while that is subjective, I think not a single time have I approached one of them without them feeling very modest and
Mhm.
very um truthful about what it took for them to get to where they are. They've had very similar mentality to what you had earlier. Was I'm just here to get my job done.
Yeah, I mean, the
um,
candor is just, you can spread it across the room with peanut butter.
yeah,
And it really does put you in this position where you're like, see it to believe it, like it's right in front of you, and you can talk to these folks and have conversations about your careers or what they're interested in. And so, in addition to like all of the wonderful content and conversations that go on, I'm really excited about it. And so I encourage everyone to kind of stop what they're doing and say, hey, let me go check that out.
that's great. So you mentioned something earlier, career, that I'd actually like to circle back on. So your skills, your experience, your qualifications, what one or two things throughout your career really set you up well for success in cyber?
Sure. So I think when I look back on it, and I know reflection sometimes is perishable. As you continue to kind of move quickly through your career or you move jobs, you sometimes lose the ability to honestly reflect on what you did, what you didn't do. That is going to contribute to success and being able to take the next step. And for me, it was taking agency of my decisions. And what I mean by that is, it really is how you approach your job, how you approach problems. Like there's always an opportunity buried, even in the most difficult situations that you can find yourself into. And so what really changed for me were two things. I was told to stay curious and then to also be coachable, right? And so there are things that may not seem very interesting, but I promise you, if you look hard enough and you really ask the right questions, it really opens the aperture for you to be able to explore opportunities. And so being able to really kind of like dig into different things, look at it from a different angle, but then when I put something together and I think it's really good and someone's like, it's missing X, Y, and Z, or you really need to reshape it, is not to take it personally, but to be like, you know what, you're right. Yeah, I can make this better. Thank you. And keep moving forward. And so I think if you can continue to do that in any job that you're in, especially cyber, because it's so dynamic, that it really will, pay you dividends moving ahead. And it allows you to network and work with these other people because this is not meant to be, you're locked alone in a skiff and no one's going to talk to you for 12 hours. It's just not how the world works. And likewise, you don't want to be, sitting in a dark, dingy office where you aren't talking to your peers and folks that you need to work with. And so having that mentality really has made the difference for me.
That's really fascinating because one of the key things that you're suggesting is a helpful skill to have to be successful in cyber is not a technical one. It's not a tactical one. It is very much one that's a transferable skill that you can get from any type of a background or any type of a career within a multitude of different industries. So that's probably going to land very well across our audience who are looking to get into a career in cyber but may feel they lack some of the key skills to be successful. Would you say that, technical background has been important to have in your success?
Well, it's interesting because, before I really jumped into the cyber field, I was working with the Department of the Navy, and I was in a very heavily focused engineering organization, and I'm not an engineer. And so I was always, to be completely honest with you, I kind of struggled with it. Like I was able to perform, I did really well, but they were like, well, you're not an engineer. And so I think certainly having technical skills will always serve you because those are things that the market recognizes. But there are things, especially in the policy world, where you need to be able to understand holistically what's happening, how you're trying to shape behavior for a market or a larger organization, that being able to do ones and zeros really does have diminishing returns. And so it's all about your skills, your talent, what you thrive at, and being able to understand, okay, where's the best fit for me? And what's wonderful about cyber is that we need everybody doing all these things. We need people with hands-on keyboards doing the ones and the zeros, making sure that we have more integrity in our software because it's garbage in, garbage out. We need to also have an appreciation that from a tool perspective, there isn't a silver bullet that will solve all your problems. And then we need people on the back end for when you have like the worst day of your life, as a small or medium-sized business, that you have people coming to your aid. They're going to help you restore operations, that you do have lawyers that are working on your behalf, because if you're a publicly traded company, there's also reporting burdens that are being put on you by the SEC. And then even from my perspective, working for Force Scout, is being able to understand, because the federal government is such a big customer of ours, is how are we building trust and further deepening our relationships with key and strategic policy decision makers, because what we are able to contribute from a private sector perspective now needs to be consolidated across the board with the government as well, because of this private partnership, public partnership, which is operational for it to actually work. And so along this stack of different jobs is an opportunity and a place for everybody. It can be highly technical. You may not be highly technical, but you can be curious about what's happening. And I promise you, like, that's what we need and that's what we want. In the United States, I believe like the number is, like 700,000 empty billets. Like that's just not acceptable anymore. And so we need folks coming out of school, folks who may have never went to college, but can go through a journeyman program, and then maybe ladies that have come off of maternity leave and are looking to kind of like spice it up. I want to do something different. This sounds interesting. You guys are all welcome.
Yeah, it's great that despite the need for more technical resources and talent out there, you gave us not one but four different, I would call supplemental operational areas where there's a huge need for expertise and people to contribute that have no technical requirement at all. So that's very helpful. Um, let's Let's end with a question that takes it back to your professional journey. If you could put your finger to one or two items that had the biggest impact on your professional career, what would they be?
So when I was a GS-14 in the Pentagon, I worked on the Navy staff in an office that was responsible for expeditionary warfare. And so that's all of like the Marine Corps assets. And when I was in that office, I had an opportunity where the major general at the time said to me, I was in charge of strategic communications. So I've worn many different hats across my career. And he said to me, I want you to help me with this Congress thing because I'm getting all these questions. It's like science mystery theater. And you're pretty good at strategic comm. So, that's just going to be duties as a science. So here you go. And I was just like, What? Okay, sure. What's happening? And so that really opened an opportunity for me to be curious about what's happening with Congress, how's that impacting the executive branch, and how it kind of trickles down into like where I sat in the Pentagon in the D ring, which was, as far away from like the center of everything that was happening at the time. But I was just like, okay, like this is cool. Like, let me ask some questions and really figure out the mechanics of this. So that opened up the opportunity for me to apply to be a defense fellow. And at the time I was like, oh, well, we're responsible for all the amphibious warships. They're all built in Mississippi. I'm definitely gonna, be given a congressman down there. I was not. I was given a congressman named Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin, 8th district. So it's like Green Bay. And I was just like, yeah, but if they don't make amphibs there, like, what am I going to do? So instead of like having a negative attitude or just being like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, this is going to be great, I was like, I'm going to learn something different. And you know what happened? He was a co-chair of the Cyberspace Solarium Commission. I had an opportunity to help build that commission from a staff level, and that opened the door for cyber for me. And so that really made all the difference. And so, being open to trying something new. And then when things didn't really shake out the way I thought it was, just kind of like diving in head first and really looking at it as an opportunity to expand on what I don't know and continue to dig really did kind of change the course of my career. So that's the real life solarium story for everybody kind of following at home.
That's amazing. I always enjoy hearing about people's origin stories, especially ones that involve really embracing the growth mindset. So many things, COVID is one that we all share in common, do not work out the way that we expect them to, or completely come out of left field. So it's great to embody much of that psychologically so that we're not bogged down by decision paralysis or
Right.
situational paralysis, but then also see the opportunities as they come along. Well, so that's absolutely fabulous. Wonderful. Ali, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today.
You're
I'm
welcome.
almost certain we're going to have a longer form of this where we invite you back as either a panelist or more of a fireside chat so we can understand your transition from government into the private sector, because I'm sure a lot of people may be sitting in their shoes right now thinking about how best to approach that as well. So thank you in advance for
Sure.
being a key contributor within the cyberspace, for you supporting United Women in Cyber, and have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
And before I jump off, just because I don't want to discourage anybody from being technical, myself, I'm 41 years old. I am looking to get my Security Plus certification through Coursera because I do want to be more technical. So not to, discourage anybody from that at all. But thank you so much, Kat. I appreciate it. Bye.
My pleasure. Take care. Cheers, everyone.